This is Beijing's second ring road expansion. China's capital city has the most ring roads in the world, with the city having 7 in total. A ring road is a main road that encircles a city. It allows travel between different parts of the city without going through its center. For example, there's the M25 in London or the I-495 Capital Beltway in Washington, D.C. Most major cities have 1 or 2 ring roads. Beijing has 7. These encircle the city and cause major congestion and accidents. China tried to fix this by expanding its second ring road, but that did not work. However, the reason why might surprise you. The first Beijing road was built in the 1950s. It's the smallest by far. It runs around the old city walls and the Forbidden City. Now, I know what you're thinking. I thought the same. Is the Forbidden City actually forbidden? No, it isn't. In feudal Japan, commoners were forbidden from entering, hence the name. But today, it's a huge tourist attraction that anyone can visit. Moving back onto the topic. Despite its small size, the first ring road is useful for tourism, as it allows visitors easy access around the Forbidden City and other city center attractions. Now, the second ring road was completed in the 1980s, and today it's a major inner city route, connecting the large commercial and residential sectors within the city. However, it would also receive a significant expansion many years later, which we will come to in a moment. The other ring roads get bigger as they get more recent. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th were all completed before the 21st century. Each one expanded and surrounded the previous ring road. They were built to handle China's huge urbanization, with many people from rural areas moving into major cities during this era. This was especially prevalent in the capital city, Beijing. Then in 2010, the 6th ring road was completed. This one was by far the biggest, spanning 118 miles, making it 1 mile longer than the M25, which encircles London. This massive ring road surrounds all of Beijing and its suburbs, providing a long route around the city. It's especially useful for heavy vehicles on long-distance journeys. The final ring road was completed in 2018. This brought the total up to 7 ring roads, and it's the second largest ring road in the world, running for over 584 miles, with only Russia's Golden Ring Federal Highway being longer. This ring road does not only completely encompass Beijing, but it also connects the city to Tianjin and Hebei, 2 major provinces, and therefore promotes economic ties between the 3 regions. Since the economic boom in the 1980s, when the second ring road was built, both homes and businesses in Beijing have grown rapidly. More people and cars came, leading to more traffic. As a result, the second ring road, which connected the commercial and residential sectors, needed to be improved to handle the demand increase, and so the expansion plans were approved. 2 main things were done as part of the expansion. First, a new lane was added on both sides of the ring road. This was done by fully widening the ring road. It was a major task. Secondly, they built multiple new interchanges and overpasses on the second ring road. This was to cut bottlenecks and improve traffic flow. Despite the cost of this major project not being disclosed, a very similar expansion of the Shanghai Inner Ring Road cost $1.5 billion, so we can expect that the second ring road expansion in Beijing cost close to this figure. Now, despite this huge investment, the second ring road expansion has not solved the congestion problem. If anything, it has made it worse. Beijing has seen a continued rise in people. With that has also come a rise in vehicles on the road. In particular, the number of private cars in Beijing rose from just over 900,000 in 2003 to about 3.5 million by 2010. Despite not being the full reason, the expansion of the second ring road definitely does play a factor in this, as it encourages more people to drive. As a result, this has led to further increases in congestion. This is especially true during peak hours on the second ring road, as it connects commuters going from the residential sectors to work in the commercial sectors. As a result, long traffic jams are common. Even more surprisingly, the addition of lanes on the second ring road triggers a rise in the amount of severity of road accidents. In fact, one paper found similar results, with the addition of lanes leading to increases in road fatalities. This is because more lanes make drivers feel that they can drive faster. They also allow for more cars on the road. Both things raise the risk of accidents. Additionally, the second ring road is deep in the center of Beijing, running through very busy areas. Thus, pedestrians and cyclists are sprawling everywhere around the ring road. This also greatly increases the chances of accidents. One One way to help solve these problems is the inclusion of a congestion charging system. This system would make drivers pay a charge when driving personal vehicles on the second ring road during peak hours. This has worked very well in London, where they implemented a congestion charge around the city centre during peak hours. This has led to a 30% reduction in congestion within the charge zone. This solution works as it discourages drivers from making unnecessary journeys during peak hours, keeping fewer cars on the road. Furthermore, this is especially useful for the second ring road as it runs around the main centre of Beijing, similar to the congestion zone in London. Also, as mentioned before, the second ring road links the commercial and residential sectors, so it is particularly prone to large traffic issues during peak hours. Thus, the congestion charge times would directly affect this. Another added benefit to the congestion charge is, of course, the revenue that it generates. In theory, one could use this to reinvest in road infrastructure. London does this, creating a positive loop of improving roads and reducing congestion at the same time. Back in the 1920s, Beijing first introduced its tram system, and they continued to expand it for the next 30 years. By the 1950s, trams were a major form of transport in Beijing. However, when the government decided to build the first ring road, they built parts of it on top of tram lines that were in use at the time. And this trend continued. The amount of cars in Beijing increased rapidly. The government decided it needed more ring roads, and over time, the tram lines were removed to make space for these roads. If China were able to revive and modernize the old tram system, this would significantly reduce the amount of cars on the road, as many people would switch to using the trams instead of driving. A great modern-day example of this is in Melbourne, Australia, where their tram system has an estimated 200 million passengers per year, and one study found that it results in a reduction of 3.4% in traffic time delays. When combined with the reduction in traffic from the congestion charge, these two changes could make a significant improvement in both delay times and accidents on Beijing's second ring road. But this would still not be enough. Simply expanding the second Beijing ring road and the other improvements I listed to reduce traffic is like putting a bandage on a huge stab wound. It does not fix the greater issue. Until the turn of the century, private car ownership was rare in China. In Beijing, the most common mode of transport was cycling. Yes, cycling. But in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the government decided it wanted to grow its domestic car industry. It hoped to become a huge car exporter, challenging titans like Japan and the US. As a result, China began mass producing cheap cars. The cars were very low quality, so they weren't up to export standards. However, they were sold all over China. As a result, the number of people driving soared, and the number of people cycling in Beijing took a massive dip. You can see this in the graph, showing what percentage of the Beijing population uses each transport method. The Chinese government anticipated this, so they constructed one new ring road almost every decade. But due to this rapid increase in cars over the past 2 decades, cities like Beijing weren't ready for the huge rise in demand. This led to the widespread congestion we see today. This huge increase in cars has already led to even worse air pollution in Beijing due to the cheap petrol cars that are widely used in China. Moreover, with the construction of the ring roads, cycle and pedestrian lanes became less useful and more unsafe due to the complete encirclements from the ring roads. This is because it is difficult to cross the ring roads without a car. Therefore, to tackle this huge rise in congestion and all the associated problems with it, Beijing clearly must decrease the amount of cars on the road. But how does it do this? Beijing could look east to their historic rivals, Japan, for inspiration. Tokyo, as of 2024, is the most populated city in the world, with a total of 37 million people. Despite this, it has a world-renowned traffic and transportation system, which keeps its congestion relatively low. Interestingly, Tokyo has 4 main ring roads: the Central Circular Route, the Inner Circular Route, the Gaikan Expressway, and the Ken-O Expressway. Granted, this is not 7 ring roads, but it still provides a useful example to compare with Beijing. Now, we all know about Tokyo's extensive and world-class public transport, particularly the Tokyo Metro and Japanese railway systems. These provide excellent options for people, and therefore significantly reduce the need for people in Tokyo to drive. However, this is a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project. To build build something similar in Beijing is just infeasible. Moreover, Beijing themselves also boast one of the best train systems in the world, and trains are actually the most common form of transport in the city. But Japan has another crucial system. It's key to keeping their 4-ring road system running smoothly and keeping congestion levels low. People know Tokyo's system as an intelligent transport system. It includes adaptive traffic signals that adjust based on real-time traffic, improving flow and cutting congestion at key intersections. By installing the same systems across Beijing's ring roads, the city can reduce bottlenecks and improve traffic flow. Also, Tokyo has extensive real-time traffic monitoring. It uses cameras and sensors to provide live updates and manage traffic incidents quickly. Beijing can also replicate this system. This would allow for quicker responses to accidents and other disruptions, minimizing their impact on traffic flow. These two implementations in Tokyo have reportedly reduced travel times by 12 to 15% during peak hours and have increased response time to accidents by 30%. Again, it is important to emphasize that Tokyo is the most populated city in the world. Its population is 40% greater than Beijing's, so Beijing can definitely emulate this system. Now, implementing this system in Beijing would not reduce the total number of vehicles in use. However, it would cut congestion by reducing the total amount of cars on the road at a given time, and that would cause a decrease in both accident rate and pollution levels in Beijing. If China did want to reduce its amount of cars, a combination of all these improvements, in particular developing walk and cycling lanes, new trams and a congestion charge, would help to discourage car usage and encourage other alternatives. This is a huge task. Now, if you want to learn why Seoul will soon overtake Tokyo for becoming the best transport system in the world, click here to watch.